if you look at the year from the time a device gets on the market and its risk over time, this graph would suggest that that risk does decrease over time, that as the device is on the market longer, the annual recall rate declines. So in the first 1 or 2 years, it's over 1.5%. But by the time you get out to year 5 or 6, that annual rate of recall for that device goes down, suggesting the device, we learn more about the device gets safer, it's used more safely, it's manufactured better. All of those things probably apply. The causes of 510K recalls are varied. Most of them are due to either manufacturing process or device design issues, about half of them, materials and components as well. And so some might argue that those are features that could be detected by a stronger pre-market or pre-clearance program. I'm not standing here arguing that we need to make all of those things go away, but those are factors that might be detected on the pre-market side. So to summarize the key findings, more than 3,000 devices are cleared each year. Overall, there's been more than 48,000 510Ks cleared since 1996. Recalls affect 510K devices 400 to 500 times annually, and the overall recall rate is around 1.5% a year. I just want to comment, I know we'll have time for a conversation, but recall analysis obviously has important limitations beyond the ones Ralph and I have already mentioned. It's a surrogate marker for safety and performance. It's not the best marker, but it's the best one we have in some respects. We're obviously interested in device effectiveness, how well the device does what it claims to do. And I also wanted to make a comment because we're going to hear a couple of talks about surveys. I think survey analysis can add some very important information and useful data for the discussion. It's important to keep in mind that surveys, by their very nature, sometimes select responses from specific groups. Sample sizes can vary, and so I look forward to hearing the other talks. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Dr. Josh Makower, who wears a number of hats. He's a consulting associate professor of medicine at Stanford University. He's a co-founder of Stanford's biodesign program. He is CEO of the medical device incubator Exploramed and a venture partner with New Enterprise Associates. Josh will describe his recently released study for which he gathered survey results from more than 200 medical device companies. Josh?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me to speak, Steve. Good to be here. Thank you all for coming. I'm going to move very quickly through this. There's a lot of data to cover, so hang on. First, disclosures. The study that I conducted was supported by a number of organizations and obviously had the participation of many people from industry. I myself am, as I mentioned before, a professor at Stanford, but also on the board of, as well as a consultant for several medical device companies. My co-author, Abed Mir, is a student at Stanford and employed by me over the summer to conduct this, and this was independently reviewed by PricewaterhouseCoopers before we brought it to the public. The objectives of the study were fairly concise. Number one, we wanted to determine where problems were occurring for med tech companies navigating the FDA process and compare that to what was going on in Europe. We wanted to provide some kind of quantitative data as to the degree that was occurring. We wanted to provide quantitative data as well regarding the perception of the FDA process versus the European process. And lastly, try to put some numbers on the actual cost to transit either process as well. To do this, we selected, well, we actually didn't select, we put out a survey request to the members of several organizations, including MDMA and NBCA, which in total was a focus on innovative companies, those that are primarily venture-backed small companies, not larger companies, and got about 200 participants to participate in the survey. Just a discussion briefly of the limitations of the study, that because it was opt-in, people elected to participate, there was obviously a potential for selection bias. I'm also aware that companies did not participate because they were afraid of how the results might be ultimately revealed and whether their participation would be revealed if there was retribution as well. In addition, the N varies across the study depending on whether the company experienced one or more of the questions. So that's also deeply indicated in the paper itself. And if you want more information, I would encourage you to download the study from the MDMA or NVCA websites. Just briefly, where some of the efficiencies are occurring, certainly turnover is a big problem at the FDA. About 44% of the companies in this survey experienced a review staff change or a branch chief change during the time of their review. Now, when we talk about review, we're really talking about the time frame during which that process was from the first submission all the way through the final approval, which could be several applications of IDEs and 510Ks over the course of potentially years. The other issue that impacted the companies was perhaps, I think it's 34%, an absence of key personnel at those meetings, which is also a cause of inefficiency. Today, the only numbers that we had previously been able to utilize to understand what the process was those published by FDA. And FDA primarily just tracks when the applications are live and in-house. Once they render an opinion, whether it's an approval or a disapproval, the clock stops, and if the new submission would come in, the clock would restart again. What I was interested in doing was actually tracking the transit time through the regulatory agency. And so what you see here is the time frames in comparison from a single product navigating from the first either submission or interaction with the FDA all the way through to the final approval. And comparing that to Europe. And so for the vast majorities of the companies in the survey, from the first filing of a document with the FDA, it was 10 months until they were cleared for 10 months till clearance in the United States on average, compared to 7 months in the CE process. Compare this to the PMA process, where the published time frames by FDA are really 9 months, but that doesn't take into account the fact that the IDE is another aspect of the U.S. process. And so starting from when the first IDEs were negotiated all the way through to executing that study and then returning and the delays associated with the PMA review process, that's what we're looking at when we talk about first communication or first filing all the way to final approval. That's about 54 months to navigate the process in the United States versus 11 months for the CE process. With regard to how widespread the concerns are amongst industry, I just selected a couple of slides. This is predictability. Green is the CE process. Red is the FDA process. And you see here a shift, obviously a shift to the two curves with the CE process being viewed as more predictable. With regard to reasonability, which is another concern, obviously a shift with the CE process being viewed as more reasonable. And also with respect to transparency as well. Another important aspect of the study was to track the costs of each step. So we identified the various stages of product development, all the way from proof of concept all the way to ultimately obtaining a 510K or PMA, measured those times, and attributed the burn rates of those companies, because that is what's really going on, as many of you know in the audience who are small company entrepreneurs, that it is the dollars per month that matter, and that directly correlates to your ability to survive depending on how much funding you have. And so delays in the regulatory process can really impact innovative products getting to market. And so what you see here, and I'll just go to summary here in terms of what those are in total. The total cost of bringing a product to the United States is about $31 million, of which, based on those different sectors, clinical trial, IDE, et cetera, 24 million of which is allocated to FDA-dependent or related aspects, 94 million on average to bring a PMA product to market, with about 75% of that related to FDA-dependent related aspects. So in total, what was interesting from the study, a unexpected finding, but one that's quite interesting, is that the delay, there's a fairly substantial delay when products are available in Europe versus when they're available here. And on average, and this only applies to products that were approved. So there's many more products that are in the system that were in the survey that are not a part of these numbers that as time were to go on, if we were to do this study again, it may be a larger number next year. But basically a 2-year delay between, on average, for products that are approved first in Europe and then finally winding up in American hospitals. So in sum, the perspective is that we have some room for improvement, certainly, that there's a delay associated with these inefficiencies at the FDA, and that there's a substantial cost associated with it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Josh. Our final speaker today is Jan Peach of Stanford University, who is one of the 2 key members of the research team funded by InHealth to study the 510K process. This was to have been a tag team presentation, but our principal investigator, Jack Linehan of Northwestern University, was unable to fly in from Wisconsin this morning due to snow, something we Californians know nothing whatsoever about. So we'll turn the floor over to Jan, who will take us through a presentation to describe their project, including how members of the audience can participate in the study. Jan?
Thank you for the opportunity to be here and be part of the panel, and best wishes from Jack Linehan, my colleague and PI of the study at Northwestern. Our study is different in terms of progress, at least, to the other presentations that we heard, in that our study is currently ongoing, with the main element of our study, a large-scale online survey, being conducted until the end of the month, and we hope that many of you will actually take the opportunity to participate in the survey. The study builds on work that Jack Linehan and I have done together with Paul Yock and Elizabeth Paté-Cornell a couple of years back, also funded by InHealth at Stanford Biodesign, where we researched the device development process and differentiated it from pharma. And you see the publication that was one of the results of it, and the full study report, 300-page report with case studies, is available from InHealth. One of the key findings was this overarching diagram from early needs finding and outlining the process from early needs finding all the way to post-market. And you see here those red circles describe areas, key decisions, key activities that are governed by regulatory requirements, and you see it's more than 50%. So the implication here is that any change made to the process can have significant impact, improve the process, but also can change, if it's not well done, can change and slow down the process significantly from early concept ideation to the patient. So the observations that we had when the 510K discussion was initiated roughly 1 year ago or 1.5 years ago is that data can actually, or should be brought, or more data should be brought to the discussion and be part of it. And there's a lot of knowledge in those that work with the process on a daily basis, oftentimes since 10, 15, 20 years. So the regulatory professionals in the industry that execute the process on a daily basis.